In this video, I'm going to show you 3 secrets of a totally awesome blues solo, so stay tuned. Hey there, this is James for Shipway Guitar. In this video lesson, I'm going to show you 3 things which you can apply to your blues soloing, which will really help you to get your solos sounding as awesome as you want them to sound. They're simple concepts which we can apply in our practice, which will really have a massive impact on your playing. Now, if you love your blues guitar, then grab a copy of my free guitar lick bundle. You can get it by clicking the link underneath this video. It's packed full of chords and riffs and solos and licks, all sorts of great blues content, which I teach you in a load of my other blues guitar videos on YouTube. Click the link underneath to grab your copy straight away. These 3 soloing concepts I'm about to share with you aren't everything that goes into making up a great blues solo. Obviously, there's a lot of different things that go into that, but they are 3 crucial components which you will hear in the playing of all the great soloists. Now, what I love about this stuff is that it has a global effect on everything you do. In other words, you don't have to actually go and learn a ton of new licks, a ton of new material, a ton of new scales for these concepts to have a really great impact on your playing. Because what they do is they affect the way and they make you rethink how you're using everything which you already know. So suddenly you find that everything you know, everything you already play, you're just playing it in a way that makes it sound that much better. Now, even if you're totally new to improvising and blues soloing, it's never too early to start experimenting with these concepts and start using them to shape your blues playing. So this video is for pretty much anyone that loves playing blues guitar. How it's going to work is I'm going to talk about each concept briefly, I'm going to demonstrate it, and then I'll tell you exactly how you can use it in your practice routine to get maximum results. So let's dive in. The first thing I want to talk about is learning to use space. Now think about if you're telling someone a story, we use pauses in between each sentence to let them kind of absorb each little element of the story. Spaces between our sentences. We don't just blurt the story out in their face, sentence after sentence after sentence. We pause, we leave little gaps, this kind of thing. Now it's exactly the same when we're playing a blues solo, because the listener needs a bit of time to absorb what you've just played. So what you need to do when you're practicing your improvising is pretty much force yourself to play a little phrase, leave a little gap. Play a little phrase, leave a little gap. I'm going to try and demonstrate that for you now, and then I'll give you a few more pointers about how to practice this in your practice time. So hopefully you can hear there in my playing how leaving a space between your phrases does a few things. First of all, it sort of frames each phrase, each part of my solo sort of stands alone as a sort of single statement in the solo. It acts kind of like punctuation or full stop or a pause and allows the listener to absorb the idea and prepare to hear the next one. It's one of the most effective soloing devices you can do, and it's also one of the ones that's really easy not to do because we kind of practice playing, we practice scales, we practice licks, and it's really easy when we play just to like try and spit them all out without even thinking about stopping playing for a moment. So how can we train ourselves to do this? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Grab a backing track in a comfortable key at a comfortable speed and basically force yourself to play a short phrase, leave a gap, play a short phrase, leave a gap. With practice, this will become a sort of natural part of how you play, and you'll get really great at learning when to stop playing, when to play, and your solos will really take on much more character and they'll just sound a lot better. Another great concept to experiment with is the idea of short notes versus long notes. In other words, make sure you're using both short notes in your playing and also some longer notes so that you get this kind of inbuilt contrast. Now there's lots of other ways to create contrast in your playing, which just makes it sound better, more interesting, and probably just more like the players who you want to sound like. But this is one of the easiest ones to start with. So let me see if I can demonstrate that for you, and then I'll give you some pointers about practicing that one. So hopefully you can hear there how I'm mixing in some shorter notes with some longer notes, playing licks like this. See, I held that long bend at the start, and then I followed it up by a series of shorter notes. So it gives the phrase some contrast. The best way to practice this is to grab a nice backing track that you like playing over and just experiment with this concept. Practice mixing in some shorter notes and some longer notes. Now again, it may seem a bit unnatural to do this at first if you don't normally play like this, but with a bit of practice it will start to feel more comfortable and you'll start to hear this contrast slipping into your playing. The third thing is to maximize the power of string bending, because string bending is such a crucial part of blues soloing. Yet when a lot of people start improvising, they don't use that many bends. Sometimes it's because they're not quite comfortable with it. Sometimes it's just because they're more focused on playing the notes in the scale than actually thinking about what they do with them. So make sure you're chucking a couple of good bends in most of the licks that you're playing, and you'll notice the sort of your playing will just sound much more bluesy, much more authentic, and much more like the great players. I mean, sometimes the best that you can do is just to play a bend and just keep repeating it, something like this. You know, you don't have to have tons of notes. Sometimes just grabbing a bend like that, repeating it round is the best thing you can do. Let's have a listen to me playing over the jam track now, and I'll try and demonstrate how to use a lot of different bends. So hopefully there you can hear how the bends just make it sound authentically bluesy, and how repeating a bend over and over is a great way to get some tension and excitement in your playing. So again, grab a backing track, put it on, and practice using lots of bends, and start noticing as you do so which are the strongest notes to bend and the best ones to use in your improvising. And if you're not using lots of bends in your playing, then you will definitely hear very quickly a real improvement in the sound of your playing. So that's those three concepts. The first one is trying to use space in your playing. The second one is creating this contrast of short notes versus long notes. And the third one is to maximize the power of string bending. So after you practice each of those separately over the track like I did, then just forget about all that and just jam and start to notice if there's a difference to the sound of your playing. And I've worked on this in guitar lessons with my students, and often just a few minutes later their playing just sounds heaps better. So I really hope that you see those kind of results in your practice when you experiment with these concepts. Also listen out for these in use in the playing of the great players like B.B. King and Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Albert King, all the great players. Listen out for how they use space, how they use contrast between notes, and listen out for some of the tasty bends that they use that you can take and start using in your playing. So that's about it for today then. I really hope that you found this lesson useful, and I can almost guarantee you that if you experiment with each of these concepts, very, very quickly you'll start to hear and feel a difference in your playing. Don't forget to grab your free blues guitar lick bundle by clicking the link under here. solos, licks, riffs, chords, all sorts of cool stuff in there, which goes along with all my blues guitar videos on YouTube. Click the link under this video and grab your free copy of that right now. Other than that, thanks a lot for watching. I really hope this has been useful for you. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you've got any comments or anything, just leave them below because I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you again very soon in another one of my lessons. So take care, and I'll see you next time.